In the quaint town of Grimsville, where even the crows had a nervous tick, Lila found the dollhouse of her dreams, or so she thought, at Mr. Rumble's antique emporium. Lila had begged her parents for a dollhouse for her birthday, and this peculiar one, though dusty and old, seemed perfect.
Ah,
Mr. Rumble remarked with a hint of mischief.
the infamous Debbie's dollhouse. It's been in my shop for ages. No one wants it.
Lila, her eyes gleaming, asked, why not? Mr. Rumble leaned in, his voice a whisper.
Legend has it, it's haunted.
Lila scoffed. Haunted? I bet the only spirits in there are the spirits of lost doll shoes. With a chuckle, her parents purchased the dollhouse, unaware of the series of dark events that were about to unfold. Lila placed the dollhouse in her room. The first odd thing she noticed? Every morning, the doll furniture was rearranged. The tiny bathtub was in the kitchen, the fridge was in the living room. It seemed like someone had a mini home makeover show going on inside. One evening, Lila peered inside and caught a tiny figure darting around, a doll named Debbie. Huh? Did I just see you move? Lila whispered. Debbie, with a sly smile, replied.
Maybe. Or maybe you had too much sugar before bed.
Lila blinked. Okay. Talking dolls? Surely, she was imagining things. But the next day, things took a turn for the bizarre. Lila found miniature notes scattered around her room. One read,
Help! Debbie's holding us hostage in the dollhouse.
Another one read,
Feed Debbie chocolate, or she'll turn us into doll furniture.
Lila, more amused than scared, left a piece of chocolate next to the dollhouse. The next morning, the piece was gone, replaced by a tiny thank you note. The antics escalated. Dolls would mysteriously appear in the fridge, holding tiny picket signs reading,
Doll. Rights. Now.
Lila's shoes would be tied together, with Debbie leaving notes claiming it was the latest fashion trend. And in the most daring act, Lila woke up with her hair braided in the tiniest plaits, with Debbie's miniature comb left behind as evidence. Lila confronted the tiny rebel. Debbie, why the mischief? Debbie crossed her arms, her tiny face serious.
You humans. Always playing with us, but never taking us seriously.
Lila laughed. Debbie, you're a doll. What do you want, a seat at the United Nations? Debbie smirked.
Not a bad idea. But first, a weekly chocolate tribute and a promise to treat us dolls with respect.
Lila agreed, more entertained than anything. Deal. But no more hair braiding. That took hours to undo. As days turned into weeks, Lila and Debbie developed an odd friendship. They'd have miniature tea parties, with Debbie often providing darkly humorous commentary on life in Grimsville.
Mrs. Jenkins' cat? Totally an undercover spy. And the postman? A retired pirate.
But with time, Lila grew older and began to lose interest in the dollhouse. Debbie, feeling neglected, decided to pull the biggest prank yet. One morning, Lila's parents woke up to find their entire house rearranged in the style of the dollhouse, the bathtub in the kitchen, the fridge in the living room. Lila, realizing what had happened, rushed to the dollhouse. Debbie, this has gone too far. Debbie, lounging in the mini living room, retorted.
Maybe you shouldn't have neglected me.
Lila sighed. Oh, look, Debbie, I'm growing up. I can't play with dolls forever. Debbie looked thoughtful.
Perhaps it's time for me to find a new home then.
With a heavy heart, Lila agreed. She returned Debbie's dollhouse to Mr. Rumble's shop, leaving a note, warning, requires weekly chocolate tribute. As Lila left, she heard the faintest whisper.
Goodbye, Lila. Remember to always keep life whimsical.
And just like that, Debbie's dollhouse awaited its next owner, ready to serve a dose of mischief and dark humor. Months after Lila bid farewell to the haunted dollhouse, Grimsville's gossip was still alive with the tale of Debbie and her mischievous antics. But Lila tried her best to move on, focusing on her studies and spending time with friends. One evening, she received a mysterious package at her doorstep. Wrapped in old newspaper and tied with a frayed string, it exuded a sense of foreboding. She hesitated for a moment before tearing it open, revealing a tiny black and white photograph. It depicted the Debbie dollhouse, but with a sinister twist. Every doll window was lit up, casting eerie shadows. In the foreground stood Debbie, a tiny sign in her hand reading,
Miss me yet?
Beneath the photograph was a note.
Dear Lila, a housewarming gift. From Mr. Rumble.
With growing dread, Lila turned around. There, to her horror, was the Debbie dollhouse, back in its original spot in her room. How had it returned? And who had delivered it? The next morning, Lila rushed to Mr. Rumble's shop, only to find it boarded up with a "closed permanently" sign. Locals said Mr. Rumble had left town, leaving no trace behind. Determined to solve the mystery, Lila decided to confront Debbie. As she peered into the dollhouse, she gasped. It wasn't just Debbie inside. Every doll Lila had ever owned, ones she had discarded, forgotten, or given away, was there, their faces twisted in anger and mischief. Debbie stepped forward, a smirk on her face.
Remember the gang, Lila? They're a bit upset about being forgotten.
Lila swallowed hard. What do you want? Debbie's voice dripped with dark humor.
Oh, just a little reunion. A reminder never to forget your old friends.
The next few days were a whirlwind of doll-related chaos. Doll shoes in Lila's cereal, dolls hanging from ceiling fans, dolls replacing family photos, and worst of all, Lila's alarm clock replaced by a doll singing eerie lullabies at the break of dawn. Lila was at her wit's end. She tried donating the dollhouse, but it would always mysteriously reappear in her room. She even tried burying it, but the next morning, her garden was upturned, with a sign reading,
Nice try.
Exhausted and desperate, Lila had an idea. She organized a grand doll party, inviting all the neighborhood kids. Each child adopted a doll, promising to care for and cherish it. One by one, the dolls left, their anger dissipating. Debbie, seeing her friends happy, whispered to Lila,
It seems I've been outplayed. But remember, toys have feelings too.
With that, she allowed a little girl, Lucy, to adopt her, the promise of new adventures gleaming in her tiny eyes. Lila sighed in relief, the curse of the dollhouse finally broken. But every now and then, she'd spot a piece of miniature furniture misplaced or a doll shoe in her shoe, a reminder of the time when her toys decided to play back. And with that, Lila learned the most crucial lesson of all: always appreciate the memories and friends, big or small, for you never know when they might come knocking, or in this case, pranking.